Joined with Jatenderpal Singh Bhullar from Eton West Construction, and we're going to go on the ups and downs of life, business, and the struggles that come with both of those things. So, Jatenderpal Singh ji, how are you doing today? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so we just want to kind of go into a little bit of depth and a little bit of information on what you where you are today, where you've come from, and how this all started. Who is Jatenderpal Singh Bhullar?
That's me. I don't know the exact wording, but I'm an entrepreneur, and that's what everyone likes to call themselves nowadays, isn't it? But I'm just me. I'm just a geezer, innit?
So you've got the construction company Eton West Construction.
Yeah.
That's what you kind of do.
Yeah.
But what is your background?
This is my background, construction. So my granddad was in construction before he was in the army. Then he came into construction when he came to the UK. My taya was in construction, and then I've basically come off of that. So all I really know is construction and the army.
How did you get into construction?
I left school at 15, or say 16, give or take. I didn't sit my GCSEs, and my gran was like, either you go to school or you go to work. So I chose to go to work. I used to go on the weekends with my taya, just hang about with him, sort of thing. So my taya took me to work because I wasn't going to school, and I started labouring, and that's how it all started.
Work that you were doing with your dad, what was that? Was that construction based?
Yeah,
How did that go? What were you kind of doing there?
Same thing. So my taya used to buy his own land, or he still does, buys his own land, builds his own houses, and then obviously rents them or sells them, etc. So I sort of unknowingly fell into that. I started labouring. I really enjoyed the construction industry from a young age. And I was labouring, and I used to, obviously, I was getting quite hench, believe it or not. So, because I'll tell you a typical day for me would be I'd get to work for about 7 o'clock. I'll start the mixer. Back then, we didn't have the electric mixers. We used to have the diesel mixers, and you used to have to start them like that, which was, a work in itself. And then where in a normal mixer, you get one mix. So you get half a bag. They used to put a bag or a bag and a half, and you could maybe get 2 or 3 mixes out of one batch. And then we would, I would, because I'd be on my own, so I was the only labourer. I'd have an 8x4 sheet of ply at the top. I'd fill up the bucket. I used to go up the ladder, pull up the bucket, pour it on the sheet, and then go back down, then fill it up, then go back up, then fill it up. I'd do a whole mix, and then I'd set it out where everyone needs it, because everyone started at 8 o'clock, so I'd have to get everything ready. And then once everyone started, because the bricks were done the night before, I'd start throwing bricks up the top, get a pile up the top, come up there, then stack them, and then go back down, then chuck the bricks back up again. So my shoulder muscles were good.
Your grandma pushed you towards the construction.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and what was the reason behind that?
I left school at a young age, 15. So my background is this: I'm dyslexic. I find it hard to read, and I don't know my left or my rights. The way, if I'm driving, check this, yeah, and somebody says take a left, take a right, I always touch my qada, because I know my qada's on my right. If I got a watch on, then I know my watch is on my left. That's how I tell my left and my rights. I still can't tell the time. So a lot of time I used to have an analog watch, or I don't wear a watch now because it looks a bit tacky and that. So a little Casio. So I can't. So even if people say to me like 10:15 or something, I'm like 10:15. You know what I mean? In my head, everything works differently. So I struggled in school massively, and back then in our community as well, there was no like, they don't understand. I used to get told from a young age, you're just thick, innit? We like that, yeah. So I left. So I couldn't study in school. 15, my gran said, when I left, my gran said, you got to go work with your taya. And that was that. Look, he's going to have a hard graft. He's going to realise this is the real world. He's going to go back into education and study. I started working with my taya. I was labouring for 2 years. I was on £20 a day or £25 a day at that time with my taya. I used to basically 7 o'clock on site. I used to make all the muck with the concrete mixer, not the electric mixers that they have now. We used to have like 2-3 mixes in one go. 8x4 sheet of ply at the top. Used to fill the bucket up, go up the ladder, pull it up, empty it, come back down, empty the whole mixer up the top. And then when everyone started, then I'd obviously start chucking the bricks up and stuff like that. Back then we had no cranes, nothing like that. So everything was done by hand. There was the rule of thumb is always 2 trowels, so bricklayers, and 1 hod carrier or 1 labourer. So I was that 1 labourer. When you're building a house and you're on double story, it's a graft, isn't it? So I used to be hanging all the time, but I got stronger and I really enjoyed what I was doing. And that's how I fell into the construction side, as it were.
So your grandma tried to push you away from something,
Yeah.
and she kind of pushed you into something.
Pushed you into it. Yeah.
At what point did you realize I'm actually really enjoying this?
Between me and you, yeah. Well, between everybody. I used to cry sometimes when I was on site, and I used to cry in the corner because my hands used to be freezing. My taya never used to let me wear gloves because he said, "Hat bakadea, you get stronger." So if I ever wore, so the reason I went in shorts as well in the cold is I was never allowed to wear what's them things underneath the shorts?
Long johns.
Long johns. So I was never allowed to wear long johns. So one time my mum made me wear long johns and my taya ripped me, and he goes, "Take them off." So I had to take them off. I was never allowed to wear gloves, and you were never allowed to have your hands in your pocket. So he was very strict back then. So so that's pretty much how we fell into it, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. Like I used to, when it was cold, my hands used to be like ice, really cold, and I used to be in the corner like this, shivering, and like I used to be like a little bit in tears, like. What do I do? But then my taya, I think, noticed what was going on, and he'd be going like this, this how you warm your hands up sort of thing. And I was learning things on site, and that's how I sort of,
Crying as a 15-year-old child on
it
site.
was hard, man.
Not embarrassing.
Yeah.
Happens to everyone. I think it's a stepping stone for anyone that gets into any business.
Yeah.
The emotions get high, everything like that. So you get into the construction industry via your grandma. You work for your taya. How long did you work for your taya?
I worked for my taya for 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
After those 6 years, what happened?
My gran passed away, and you have issues within the family. I think people thought that I got too close to my taya, as in I used to go with him everywhere. Meetings, like breakfast, bank manager meetings, I'd be hovering around, going to a bar. I was always with my taya. So I think people started thinking I was his son, essentially, innit? So when my gran passed away, obviously my aunties I don't think they liked the fact that I was too close. So then there's a bit of a division, and me and my taya fell out.
Okay. So you fell out with your taya. People thought you were too close. You were kind of picking up his skill set, and you were working kind of hand in hand with him. Now. Drift occurred between you and your taya. Where did you go from there? What was your kind of plan? You must have stopped working with him.
Yeah. So I stopped working with him for a bit. I hovered about a little bit, and then I ended up working for a few companies in London. So I worked for Taylor Wimpey, McDonald Brickwork, City Brickwork, and a few others like some Irish companies. I can't remember their names now. Something like that. I worked for them, and then I decided to set up on my own in 2008. The recession hit, and we pretty much lost everything again.
So when you set up on your own, how long were you working for? Was it just a year or?
Just under a year.
Just under a year.
Yeah, and I was very naive. And when you're naive in the construction field, a lot of people take advantage. Because I didn't know about bricks, materials, costings. Like we've got QS working for us now. We didn't have any of that back then. So we were losing money on jobs that we were doing to try and win. And that was it, man. And the recession hit, and we just went back to zero again.
So the recession hit in 2008.
Yeah.
After the recession, what was your mindset? What were you thinking? What was it? What can I do? I need to support my family. What kind of came to your mind?
My mindset was all over the place because I've got support of your family, and I come from a very needy family. So part of me was like, I don't know what to do. I just need money coming in, sort of thing. So I decided to join the army. There was an advert on the TV for the Royal Marines. So the next day I went to the local recruitment office was in Reading. So I went to Reading, I did everything that I had to do. And then after we did the training thing, assessment, the guy goes, look, you're going to have to trim your beard because of whatever reason. At the time, I didn't really understand it. I was like, I can't do that. So I just left like there and then. And I think sometimes mileage has a different thing for everybody. So as I left, obviously I didn't even have money for a car at the time or anything. So I was on a train back, and the train came obviously to Slough. And then from Slough, obviously you used to have to cut over a bridge to get to where I was living. And there's another recruitment office there. And it's weird, like I just got pulled into it. Like, if I'm thinking back, it wasn't something I actually physically was going to do. I just sort of got dragged in. And I walked into there somehow, I don't know how. And I was like, look, I'm looking to join the army. And the guy on there was from the Horse Guards. And he goes, what regiment do you want to join? Do you know anything about the army? I said, I don't know nothing about the army. What I do know is I'm very fit, I'm strong, and I'm up for anything, any challenge. I heard that, what's like the best regiments, like the top end regiments? He goes, obviously the top end regiments are the SBS, the SAS, but you can't just join. After that, you've got the parachute regiment, you've got the Gurkhas, and then you've got the Guards. He said you can't join the Gurkhas because you've got to be Nepalese. So you can either join the Paras or you can join the Guards. And then he goes, because he was from the Household Division, he goes, I recommend joining the Guards, purely for the fact that if you really want to join the parachute regiment, they've got a Guards para within the regiment. So you got mix of both worlds. With the Paras, you're just stuck with infantry, that's it. And that's how I fell into joining the Guards. And I've always had a weird thing with the Scottish. Like I got a thing, I don't know, like in my past life, I think I might have been Scottish. Yeah, because I got a lot of love from a young age. I've always, even though I've never been there or nothing, I just love the accent. So when he told me the different regiments of the Foot Guards, I was like, I'll join the Scots Guards, because I assumed in my head I'll be in Scotland, away from everybody else. But it turned out I wasn't. I was in London. So yeah, so I was in the Guards for 5 years. But initially, obviously, we went through the grueling stages of recruitment and training and stuff. As an example, the training was so hard. We have 80 people that want to join. Out of 80, only 12 of us passed out of training. So, I mean, we're talking about TAC-X3, so Tactical Exercise 3, where we were digging trenches for 3-4 days, and we only had cold rations. And you're basically digging 24 hours a day for 3-4 days until basically the trench had to be long enough for your section, which was 12 people, and it had to be a height of the tallest man. And we were lucky enough to have Cosgrove, Gora. He was 6 foot something, so our trench was a lot bigger. And they don't make it easy, so they put you in a position or in a space where it's not just mud, it's not middly, it's loads of stones. And you don't get like a pickaxe like what we have here. You have these little ones, like the foldable ones and all that, which makes it even harder. So training was very grueling, like very, very hard. And then obviously you passed out of that. And then that's when we found out about, obviously I then found out about the Guards. So what we have the ceremonial side as well, which was obviously protecting the royal family, etc., etc. And it's only when we got to trainings for 32 weeks, including driver training and all that, we got to, I think, week 24, and they were saying, oh, well, you got to get measured for your tunic and your bearskin. And I was like, would you like, I'm not wearing no bearskin sort of thing, innit? Like, it's not, I've got my dastard. And they were like, no, you got to wear your bearskin. And I was like, nah, it's not going to happen. So one of them ones. So there's a bit of a falling out again, and they weren't really happy because they've got the ceremonial side, but we've got our ceremonial side. And if I'd known about this beforehand, we wouldn't obviously had the issues, innit? And that's how we ended up. So when I passed out of training, we found out that I was going to be the first Sikh, which I never knew ever until I'd literally passed out of training. And they were like, the newspapers are going to be there, this, that, the other. And then when I got to my unit in London, again, we had the same issue. They were like, you have to wear the bearskin. I was like, I can't wear the bearskin. Then they were like, if you don't wear it, you're disobeying a direct command, which means that you're basically going to go to the army prison, and then from there you're going to get kicked out of the unit. I go, that's cool. I'm happy with that, but I can't just put a hat on or whatever, innit? I didn't do it for the whole of training. I didn't, do you know what I mean? Or anything like that. So I'm not going to start now. I'll go, if that's what it is, that's what it is. And then I think originally, at the end, the Queen signed it off herself that it was that he was allowed to wear, obviously, like his bug instead of the bearskin. So the order came from the top right to the bottom.
How did it feel being the only Sardar, the first Sikh, without a bearskin on their head?
It wasn't just a bearskin; it was the whole thing. I mean, I felt obviously proud, and I was. If my granddad was here to see it, it would have been epic. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just a job essentially. The only issue we had was obviously the fact that Gordy didn't like the fact that I was just coming to the unit, and that there was this confrontation straight away, and the fact that I think I was getting a lot of limelight, and it wasn't something I asked for. I never contacted anybody. I didn't even know anything about it. I was getting told what was happening. It felt good. I was proud, but it was quite hard as well. Like, obviously, to be in the unit and do what we did. I mean, 'cause being the first Sikh, it's not just about the bearskin. It's like everything that happens in the background. As an example, if we go on exercise, sometimes they wouldn't have vegetarian rations, so I'd end up not eating anything. The guys were good, so they'd give me like veggie, whatever vegetarian stuff they had. And again, this is where the commanders, like the sergeants, the lance sergeants, etc., well, actually, you know what, this guy's a top guy, man. Like, he's not just dropping everything, you know what I mean, like where no one can see, to have a quick sausage sandwich. Do you know what I mean? He's pukka to what he believes in. We used to go to Canada or different places, and they wouldn't have rations, and people would give me a bit of salad. So I'd come off exercise for say 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Everyone's got like bacon bats, sausage sandwiches, and I've got a bit of salad. Do you know what I mean? It was a bit okazi, innit? But like I said, we come through it, man. It's one of them ones.
After the guard, what kind of took place then?
I was in the guards, and then I met up with my dad. I hadn't spoke to him in years, and I can't remember how we met up. But I ended up going back to the house just to say what's happening and all that. And then he was like, look, you've learnt a trade and a skill, which, believe it or not, I was still doing on the weekends to keep my hands, do you know what I mean? Because we didn't work 7 days a week. And he goes, look, why don't you leave? And then he goes, I'll set you up with some brickies. And then obviously, you know what I mean, you can make more money, because there's not massive amounts of money in the army. Do you know what I mean? Like, for a family.
Is that the reason you were doing those side hustles on the weekend? And what were you doing exactly?
I was somebody needed a garden wall done. I'd go and build up the garden wall, do it all on my own. Somebody needed help with a bit of block work. I'd go and help them for a day. You know what I mean? Get 100 quid here, 100 quid there. It was me and my missus. We were in a married quarter at the time. And then obviously Jordaby, my first boy, was born, and that's when my dad was like, look, man, you need to think about the future a little bit more. And this is where he says, I'll help you, and I'll get you into like brickwork or with a company, so you can work for them, so that you can make more money, basically, innit? Because you could be earning a lot more than what you're earning at the moment. So that's when I made that decision then to leave the army. Otherwise, I was doing really well in the army in terms of promotion and skill set and everything I was doing. I started off right at the bottom. They have like a scale. I was like literally right at the bottom. To when I passed out of training, I was like 3/4, while I was in the battalion and all that, I was right at the top. Like when you select what soldiers you want with you, every section commander would say, I want Bhullar, I want Bhullar, Bhullar. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the graft you put in. And I'm still very good mates with all of them now.
So your Daya set you up with a few of, let's say, his
Never
contacts?
happened, man. Never happened. Yeah, so I left the army under my Daya say-so. The day I left, I had no communication. I used to ring my Daya, I had no answer. Like this, that, the other. And I was messed at that point because I couldn't provide for my family. I had a kid on the way. Well, he was just born. And nobody was there for me again. Like literally I was at ground zero. So it was another friend of mine, his name is Jas. He got me to work for him on a day rate, building an extension. So I started that off as an extension. I'd set up Eton West Construction, so that was my company, but I had no work and I had no prospects. I had nobody. People want to see your work, and I had nothing to showcase to anyone. So I had the opportunity to build an extension on a day rate, where obviously the guy was making money, I was on a day rate building the work, but I could showcase something, which is what I did. And then once I showcased that one project, I got another project, and then another one after that, and another one. But I didn't get no help. I started from ground zero. When I was in the army, we were that skint, me and Mrs., and we used to live in the married quarters. We used to get, I used to get an Oyster card, to travel. I used to bike 8 miles to work so she could use the Oyster card to get to work. And then I would stay at work all day so I could get free food so that she could come home and cook, make her own food.
Tough. Would you say those elements of being in the Scots Guard, those hard trainings, helped you through that time where no one was there with you?
Yeah.
Getting through those where you essentially had someone promise you
stuff and it never happened.
And something never happened. If you didn't leave the army, where would you be today?
I think I'd probably be a lance sergeant, maybe a full sergeant now. Promotion wise, I was doing really well. I was fit, I was out and about. I was always on exercise constantly. Part of the reason why I used to go on exercise a lot of the time was we were skint, we had no money. So on exercise, I know that I'd get free food. My missus could save a bit of money on the side at home. Do you know what I mean? And then we could provide. So that's why I used to spend a lot of time away.
When did you set up Eton West Construction?
So Eton West Construction was set up in 2016, November 2016, because that's the day I left the army. So the two very memorable dates. Excuse me. The day I was transitioning out was the day that I set it up, and the name that came about was I was on exercise in Canada, and the biggest construction firm in Canada is Eton West Construction, but they're called Eton West. And the name stuck with me when I landed at Calgary Airport, and I thought about it for the whole exercise. When I came back, I wanted to see if the name was available and it was registered. The reason the name stuck with me was I lived in Slough, right next to Eton, and I was in West London, and it was a construction company. And the name just stuck. Like I wanted an English name. I wanted something that attracts. Nothing like like Bhullar construction or something. Do you know what I mean? You want something. Do you know what I mean? Different. And that's where the vision from Eton West came about. And that's where we started really small. Our first project as Eton West was like a little Wendy house. Then we got a little extension, and then we did a couple of extensions, then a few double stories, to the point where we are currently at the moment.
Is the future plans for?
We want to be the biggest independent construction company in the UK. I think personally, this is my belief, I think we already are. In terms of there's no construction company in the UK where if you live in Birmingham and say we do your house and it's completed and you got another project in Newcastle, nobody's going to go there to do it, right? That company won't go there to do it. We'll go anywhere and do your construction project because we've got sites from London to Birmingham, to Newcastle, to Leeds. So we've got projects across the country. So we want to, I think we already are probably the biggest independent construction company on that side. Taylor Wimpey, they're like PLC companies. They're big companies, but they're not independently owned. We are. We look after all our guys. We've got a YouTube channel and stuff like that. So everything we do is in-house. We don't subcontract any work. We make sure that everybody works for Eton West. I think we were the first company to get electric vans as well.
What sets Eton West apart from everyone else?
That's it. We think about the economy. We're a big outfit in terms of, I don't want to get Hankari here, but I think we're pretty big in terms of we can accommodate projects across the country. We think about the economy in terms of electric vans and how we've got our own design team, we've got our own CGIs, everything's done in-house. So we can do a design of your property. We can do a CGI, so you can visualize it. You can put the VR thing on, and you can physically walk around the property before it's been built. We can build it, and then if you're like an investor, we can mark it on the CGIs so that it's sold before it's even built. There's not many companies out there. A lot of companies will subcontract items out. Everything's in-house with Eton West. Everything, from the chippy downstairs, to the brickies. Do you know what I mean? The whole chain of command. Everything's. We've got an office in Birmingham. We've got an office in Slough.
So you mentioned London, Birmingham, Leeds, Newcastle, across the UK. Has Eton West ventured into Scotland yet?
Nah, we're looking at venturing into Scotland. Scotland's like starting out again. We have no contacts, we have no links. You got to remember, everything that we've created with Eton West has been done with no links and no nothing. There's other companies where the guys are a lot siane, older, so they have links, they know people, you know what I mean? Me being like in my 30s, a lot of people, do you know what I mean? They rather go to somebody older, that kind of thing. So we're looking into Scotland at the moment, and it's definitely somewhere we want to be.
What would Jatenderpal Singh Bhullar say to his younger self today?
You know what? I've thought about this a lot over the years, and I don't think I would change anything, purely for the fact that if I didn't have the struggles and the hurdles I had coming up to where we are now, I don't think we'd be here.
What advice would you give to those youngsters wanting to come into the construction industry? And in general, what advice would you give to those who are looking to start up their own business?
So we're actually helping people currently at the moment. I don't want anybody to have the struggles that I've had, believe it or not. And ultimately, I've always believed that you're going to get what you're going to get no matter what, as long as you put the effort in. So I always say don't give up. Nowadays, a lot of people give up fairly quick. Something doesn't go their way and they're like, actually allow it, maybe not for me. If you look at my story and my journey, I've never given up from the bottom all the way moving up. I've never ever said, you know what, my hands are up, I'm finished. Nah. If you get knocked down, you get back up and you keep trying. And that's what I say to everybody. Just don't give up. If you ever need anything, trust me, like we're here because we've been through the struggle. You know what I mean? And we're still struggling now. Do you know what I mean? To obviously grow even more and venture out and stuff. So just keep going.
It has been great speaking to you today.
Jatenderpal.
Yeah, man.
And seeing the insights of your struggles, your peaks, and the time with the Queen's Guard. We will be having more projects with you in the upcoming future. So don't miss those projects. Sky 775, Punjab Broadcasting Channel. And Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.